Greetings, growers of the world. Jordan River here, back with more Growcast, keeping you in the loop. Today we have Queen of the Sun on the line to talk about poop. That's right, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to cover a lot of stuff, actually. Tissue culture cloning, viruses, viroids, and then a lot of poop and manure talk. It's a subject that comes up quite a bit, especially on this tour that we've been doing. Now, stay tuned. Me and Alex are going to do a special stream November 20th at 4:20 p.m. Central USA time. And this is going to be a cool hangout stream, and that's all going to be at the YouTube, youtube.com/Growcast. Go ahead and hit that notification and come and hang out for a special stream with me and Alex as we tell stories from our travels around the world. We talk about it a little bit on this show, but we want to give you guys the grow advice on this show. So this special stream coming up November 20th, we'll just be hanging out. So come and join us, me and Alex, November 20th, 4:20 p.m. Central USA time. Before we get into it with Queen of the Sun, shout out to one of my favorite partners, AC Infinity, the best grow gear in the game. Code GROWCAST15 saves you 15% at acinfinity.com. They've got the thick, sturdy tents with the thick canvas and the thick tent poles, the best tents in the game. They've got the fans that you need, the inline fans, the Cloud Ray oscillating fans now. Again, code GROWCAST15 for 15% off. The best quality grow gear you can find. They've also got lights and scissors and pots and hangers and so much more. But when it comes to the fans and the tents, there's no one else out there that does it better. The inline fans, the Cloud Line series, are fantastic. The S series is the simple series, still comes with a 10-speed fan controller. And the T series comes with a controller that lets you automatically dial in your temperature and humidity. acinfinity.com, code GROWCAST15 for 15% off. They even have grow kits that come with everything you need to expand. Get that second veg tent, get that second flower tent you've been thinking about. Save with the kit and use code GROWCAST15, which now works on those kits, saving you extra money with the best gear in the game. acinfinity.com. They've been our partners for years. We brought these guys along a long time ago. They've really expanded and done a great job. acinfinity.com, code GROWCAST15. All right, everyone, let's get into it with Queen of the Sun. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to Growcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we begin the show, as always, I urge you to share this program. Tell someone about Growcast. Tell a smoker. Tell a grower. Get somebody growing. That's the best thing you can do. And be sure to see everything that we're doing in the Growcast universe at growcastpodcast.com/action. There you will find membership and Seedco and all the amazing classes, which we'll be talking about today, of course. See everything at growcastpodcast.com/action. Today we have Queen of the Sun back on the line. What's up, Queen of the Sun? How are you doing?
I am doing great. It's so nice to talk to you again. Yeah. Seems like it's been forever.
Yeah, no kidding. We're sick of each other by now. No, I'm just kidding. No, this has been a wonderful time touring with you. How are you doing now back in your home base on the West Coast before we head out to Hawaii? Man, you've been working your butt off on these classes with me. It's been an honor. It's been a wild ride. And I just want to say thank you and see how you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I am doing great. This is our first month. Well, my first month of not going anywhere since we started the tour.
Right.
So it feels kind of weird not to be going anywhere this month.
I think that's really cool. Thank you to all the students who came out because, like Alexandria said, we've been busy. You guys have been requesting us, and we have a lot planned for you guys. This particular episode, we're going to get into a lot of good grow shit. Literally, grow poop. I know it's no nonsense November, but we're going to talk about poop today. Before we get into all that good stuff, though, man, I'm super excited about Hawaii on December 10th. Like you said, no rest for the wicked. We've been going hard every single month. And we're going to jump right back on this Living Soil class right after the holidays. We're going to Virginia. We're going to make it to Boston. A couple more dates before we close out the Living Soil.
Yes, I think we need to go to Missouri. I keep getting hit up about Missouri. And then with rec just passing, yay, Missouri.
Okay, game on. We'll do Missouri before we close it out. And we might mix up some curriculums, you guys. Keep an eye out for an IPM class. Maybe we'll do one of each on some of the weekends.
Yeah,
I just really want to express, I really appreciate you students for coming out. And I'm so proud of this work, Alexandria. It's like the best education I've ever been a part of. And We're going to blow it up even bigger in 2023.
I would agree with all of that. It's been amazing. It's been so awesome connecting with people in real life. Everyone has brought amazing weed. I love that. I love trying everybody's homegrown. It's just fucking rad. I have some cherry parfait from the San Diego class. Shout out if you're listening. I don't know your name. I don't have your contact information, but I wish I did because I have been loving that cherry parfait and just want to say thank you.
Oh, I love that. I got some good shit in San Diego too. So this is exactly what we wanted to accomplish, you guys. In-person education, meeting up, being able to answer your questions in depth. This is exactly what we were aiming for, and I'm just super gracious that it's been going down. Damn, that sounds good though. I didn't get any cherry parfait. That's bullshit.
Well, dude, this guy told me he's never spent any money on any grow classes, like any education on anything, but he made it specifically for me. And he brought the cherry parfait because Humboldt Seed Company is my favorite. Oh. He said, he's like, isn't this your favorite? And I was like, wow, that is so amazing. That is so kind and thoughtful. And I'm just so grateful for that.
I love it.
And it was he made all his own inputs. He made his own biochar, and he was growing on the Mexican border in the desert in SoCal, like in the most extreme.
Who was this mysterious? Was he a member? Who is this guy?
No, he was an older gentleman. He came with his wife.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they were so nice.
60s. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If he's going to be listening, get in touch with me. Hit me up on Instagram. I have a present for you. Just get at me.
That's so cool. So, okay, guys, we won't linger on this, but please, if you can come and see us, please come and see us. A lot of people have been asking if we're going to do online. We are going to do an online course. So keep an eye out for that. And again, thank you for supporting us as we educate in person and deliver a level of personalization that we're not able to quite over the airwaves. Although I do love doing these episodes to live out there forever and help growers, I don't know, understand poop. Is that what's on the menu for today?
The great poop loop, man. You know, a lot of people don't like poop, I guess. I don't know why. I've never been squeamish about poop. I started changing diapers when I was 9 years old, and I'm the oldest of 5. So I've seen a lot of it. Had animals, pigs, horses. I've had goats, chickens, dogs, cats, you know, you name it. And the original fertilizer is poop, right? So let's talk about poop. Let's get into it. Let's get dirty, shitty, crappy. Bring the Browns to the Super Bowl.
Holy shit. Let's get into it. Let's dive right in, everybody. You know, it is a large constituent of a lot of soil mixes out there. You know what I mean? It's really, when you start to break it down, there's a lot of feces out in the cannabis world. I mean, you don't even really think about worm castings as worm poop necessarily. I don't know why, just because of how clean they are or whatever, but worm castings, you're working with poop. You got guanos, you're working with poop. There's so many that are present in the cannabis world. But maybe we can start at the top and talk about this poop loop. This idea of, you know, this digestion and excretion is kind of what drives the whole soil food web and beyond.
Exactly. When you think about it, what are bacteria doing? They're consuming nitrogen from decaying plant matter, and their waste is the leftover nitrogen. When a protozoa eats them, their waste is the leftover nitrogen that the bacteria didn't need, or they didn't need from the bacteria. And it's like, what is that? What is waste? Waste is poop. And all of that is just the excess of whatever consumed it, whatever consumed and then made the poop didn't need. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And some creatures, like worms, for instance, have amazing abilities to increase that nutrient potential.
Which is crazy to me. The whole law of diminishing return, it doesn't make any sense. And I've been trying to find this out, like how do they know this? It's like, I don't know. We've talked about it must be enzymatic or bacterial, something that's going on in the worms that increases that NPK. But one thing I don't get is I have people hitting me up and saying like they're vegan growers. Right. No hate on the vegans, but how is worm poop not like it's okay for vegans, but then like horse poop isn't? I don't understand that.
Just like I used horse as an example. I do see occasionally these veganic growers out there who are doing an organic grow and they're not using any animal products. And again, I'm with you. Grow how you're going to grow. But I got to imagine that's going to cut down a large majority of your options, especially if you're trying to source locally. It seems like manures are a great way to get a lot of mineral content into your soil locally. You know what I mean? You always talk about building your own soil mix as cheap as you can and maybe hitting up some farms near you, right? Like you're saying, somebody with a stable. That's free nutrition, that manure.
Yes. And okay, so the thing with manure is I want to preface that everyone should try to obtain free manure if you can. Obviously, it's better if you can get the manure closed loop regeneratively on your farm where
Right.
you are, for instance, on my farm, I had the chickens and the goats and I composted their manure and then I used that compost in my gardens. But in a neighborhood, it's a lot harder to have farm animals. And so now I have a worm bin and I'm thinking I'm going to get some rabbits, a little rabbit hutch. Like one or two rabbits can produce so much manure. And the great thing about rabbit manure is it is one of the only manures that is safe to apply directly to your plants without fear of contamination from pathogens or burning from, too hot of
Right.
nitrogen or fermenting and causing burn. So rabbits are an amazing option for people who live in suburbia or an apartment, and they're really cute and friendly and you can pet them and enjoy them that way and then harvest their poop and throw it directly into your plants. Boom, you just got free fertilizer.
Right. Right. Yeah. I've heard that about rabbits. And there's even some companies that use rabbit manure in their cannabis products. I think there's a product called Bunny Magic, if I'm not mistaken. But if you can just raise the rabbits on your own, that's a free little nutrient pooping device right there.
A honey bunny.
Honey bunny indeed. So you're saying ideally you're closing the loop and this is all your own poop on your own farm. That's really the goal of the closed loop farming system, the regenerative farming system. So I love that. But also, like you said, you can go to a local farm and maybe grab some manure. Do you have any tips when it comes to seeking out manure on other people's farm and what to watch out for and what to do with that manure before you use it?
Yes, Craigslist. Craigslist always has free manure on there. Go a little bit depending on how far you're willing to drive, but most farms have tractors and will freely give you their manure. And these are just things that you want to ask them before picking up the poop. It's just like determine the age of the manure. How long has that pile been sitting there? Just so you can have more information about it. How often do they use dewormers or any kind of antibiotics? How they raise their animals, what they feed their animals. You are what you eat, literally, right? Like what we consume makes us and in turn our waste. So poop is going to be made up of whatever that animal consumed. So knowing that your farmer or whoever you're sourcing your manure from is feeding things that you're okay with putting into your garden. I mean, I know people who won't use worm castings that have been fed kitchen scraps from GMO, pesticide, regular grocery store. You know what I'm saying? Grocery store food, which is so funny when people tell me that. And I'm like, but you're eating it. You're eating it, but you don't want your worm to eat it. And then you're going to put it in. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks. You know how I feel, but I agree. The idea of what you're feeding an animal, determining its waste's NPK value, that's kind of how the FOOP does their thing. Feeding their fish determines how much each ratio comes out. But it seems like a pretty broad spectrum kind of applicant. Like when you look up horse manure, for instance, it's got an NPK ratio of 0.5, 0.3, 0.4. So pretty evenly spread across. It's pretty amazing how broad spectrum these manures are.
Yeah, definitely. And they all vary slightly. I have a table from one of the first farming books I got when I really got into farming. It's called July and Winter by Gary Romano from a local farmer that I looked up to. And so if you can develop relationships with local farmers, like that is the key. And if they write books about it, hey, go ahead and buy it. That's awesome. So he has in here a little table and it's showing that horse cow is like 223. sheep, goat, 1, 2, 2, rabbit, 2.5, 1.5, 1. And those are all, NPK. Now, the interesting thing is
Wow.
when you get to chicken or any poultry, that's a 5, 2, 2. So poultry is much higher in nitrogen. And this is because poultry poop and pee at the same time. And it contains high urea, which is their pee, basically.
Right, right. The chicken hole pees and poops and disperses eggs. It's got a name too. It's escaping me at the moment. I'm stoned. I used to know the name for that orifice. But that is a really good point. That is going to lead to, if your poo and your pee are mixed together, that's going to lead to a higher nitrogen content. In fact, reading this little thing that I'm looking up here that was talking about horse manure with a higher N rating, it said sometimes horse manure contains bedding and straw soaked with nitrogen-rich urine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So where the pee goes is going to influence a lot of the nitrogen rating. That's a very, very important point about poop.
Yes. So my biggest piece of advice is if you are sourcing manure from somebody, ask them the age. If they don't know it, let it sit a minimum of 6 months, 180 days, and then compost it before using it in your garden.
And that's going to make your compost more rich in mineral content.
It's going to make it more microbially diverse. It's going to be more rich in mineral content. It's going to ensure that you're not going to get super high N from all of that urine and the bedding and burn your plants. It's going to ensure that if there's any pathogens like E. coli, which is found in cow manure, isn't passed on once it goes through that composting process. A lot of those pathogens, if you reach that 175 degrees for 3 days, which is like the minimum of a good compost system, it will kill off those pathogens and make it safe for using. And if that's why we have those recalls in like lettuce and shit, is because E. coli is present in manures.
Right.
And so a lot of organic farms will have this problem. But if you let it age and then compost it, you're really reducing your risk of any problem, as well as weed seeds, because obviously these are all herbivores and they're eating seed heads, and those don't get digested and broken down a lot of times in their stomach. And so you can go ahead and just have seeds sprouting. I have that going on right now in my indoor little living soil bed I just put up. I bought a custom soil mix and it has manure in it and compost, and they didn't get it obviously hot enough to kill all of the seeds. So I have grass growing in my
I saw that. I saw that. So the seeds survived the compost process, and now you've got a free cover crop, I think, as you put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking good, though. I saw the indoor soil bed and the plural peaches that you have going there, the Growcast Seed Co. Loved seeing that. Beautiful stuff.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for giving those to me.
Of course. Yeah, 100%. I'm super excited to see how that comes out the living soil bed, whether or not there is free grass added. So you're saying that this is an important step about introducing manure is A, aging it, and then B, putting it through your compost. Unless you're dealing with something like rabbit poop, as you said, maybe your own source rabbit poop, which works a little bit different, you should be putting manure through this process for safety reasons and to maximize the potential.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you can buy bag manure. Obviously, they hopefully have gone through these processes and aged it or composted it. But why pay for something that is free? I mean, unless if time is limited or something. Obviously, skin your cat the way you want, but
you can get it for free if you're crafty.
I love free.
I love free too.
Exactly.
Free this is my favorite 4-letter word behind another F word.
If me too. If you have to buy manure, I would say I prefer, because I do buy some manures, but not things that I can get free. And those manures are guanos. I like buying bat guano and seabird guano. And I have actually heard, that they are not sustainable because of the way they source them, extract them, harvest them.
Now, I heard that about bat guano. Let's be clear. I believe guano is officially anything that comes from any poop that comes from a flying animal like a bird or a bat. I believe that's what guano means. It's just poop that comes from these types of animals. I had heard that about bat guano and how they're going into these natural habitats, into these caves, and they're fucking shit up getting the poop out, I guess. I had not heard that about seabird guano. I didn't know that is that sustainable?
I don't think it's super sustainable
Mm.
just because of the same, they can like whoever's going out there and harvesting it isn't like doing it in
They're fucking
a
kicking the
way
birds and
that is
knocking down the
aware.
nests and shit. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen where the guano is? It's like it's basically their nests are made of guano. They just like shit all over and then it's like calcified, kind of like hardened, and they're nesting on these islands off the coast of like South America. And I started going down this rabbit hole of like, kind of learning about the unsustainable methods of harvesting this. And did you know that there's wars over guano?
No.
The
Guano
guano
wars?
wars? Yes, this is crazy. I had no idea that this was happening. But in the 1800s, the Spaniards sent like a fleet to do a scientific experiment, but really they sent warships and they were taking over like Chile and what other countries?
Wow,
Peru
Bolivia
was
and Peru.
involved.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Chincha Island Wars off the coast of
Yes.
South America. Wow. By the Spanish. This is incredible.
13 million tons of crap. That's what it says in this article, that the Chincha Islands exported 13 million tons of crap.
Wow, this is wild.
Amazing.
There are some pictures you guys can look up if you just type in Guano Wars or Chincha Islands War, 1865 to 1879. Jeez, that's wild. I did not know that. I was imagining them just scraping it off the fucking parking lot floor. You know what I mean? All
Right?
the birds shitting at the beach. I didn't imagine them, invading these habitats that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, so I actually went on like a little tour in Mexico. My favorite bird growing up was the blue-footed booby, probably because it had the word booby in it. But they literally lay their eggs in these nests made up of guano, and the whole island is just covered in guano. And that's the only really like the thing that is out there is these blue-footed boobies, and they're endangered. And so from what I gather is that they're just scraping away like all of these nesting grounds in this area to harvest it. In my mind, I was like, oh, they're just cleaning up the shit. It's not like, how can it be that bad? But it is. So use it sparingly and maybe find out from the company. Like I would be interested in talking to Down to Earth because I love that company
Yeah,
and seeing where they harvest it and if it is sustainably harvested.
exactly. And I had thought that was kind of one of the principles of that company.
Yeah.
That sounds like I'm throwing shade, but what I'm saying is I kind of assumed that wherever they were getting that from was, sustainable in some way, or at least not super, super harmful in the collection process. So yeah, I'd like to know that as well. And importing the guanos, maybe you can get that manure somewhere else for free. Because yeah, I had heard that about bat for a long time. And yeah, you got to get that poop somewhere,
The thing with the bat guano is that for some reason, bats won't come back to caves that their guano has been completely removed from.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't know why. They're like, oh, it's not my home anymore. My poop's gone.
It's not the same. It's not the same without the shit smeared all over the walls. I mean, come on. It's blind. How does it even, why does it even care?
So the thing with the bat guano is there is a high-end bat guano and a low-end bat guano. And that is because different bat species feed on different things. This whole principle of you are what you eat and your waste is, the excess of that, whatever you consumed. So with the bat, the high end is a bat that eats and consumes insects. And so therefore it has a higher end. And that is because what insects are high in protein.
Right.
And what is nitrogen? Nitrogen is protein. Nitrogen is the structural source of amino acids, and amino acids are what build protein. And so when you are lacking nitrogen, you're lacking protein. So when you want to find something that is high in nitrogen, then you would go to something that has a diet that is higher in N. And that is why a lot of the other manures aren't very high in N or at all, because they're eating, not a super high protein diet. I mean, grass is a lot of nitrogen, so it's got to have a decent amount of protein, but not like freaking
100%.
bugs.
I'd like to see what pig manure is like.
Yeah, the pigs
I can't believe I just said that sentence.
You feed the dead bodies to.
Yes, 100%. The mafia pigs Got to have high nitrogen. Was this supposed to be no nonsense November? My God.
You can't do no nonsense with me.
Yeah, I guess apparently we're learning that in real time. No, I love it. I love it. So yeah, that is a good point where the nitrogen in these excrement, sources are either coming from primarily the urea or some sort of like protein diet, some sort of amino acid rich diet, which is going to cause to have higher nitrogen content. So again, yeah, like wonder if you feed pigs a lot of meat products, I'm sure that would add to the nitrogen content of their poop.
Well, you want to hear another really cool fact about bats that eat insects? What else is in insects?
Chitin.
Yes. So their manure is high in chitin. So then you're feeding your fungal network because what? Fungus feeds off of chitin. So I love bat guano. I use it sparingly. I use it in flour, and I have some recipes, some tea recipes that I incorporate a little bit into it. But it's just, you've got to pick your poison, and I really like using manures.
Pick your poison poop. Okay, so you like using them. Let's go back. I know you had listed a few and some of their benefits, but let's do the best and maybe even the worst. But like as far as best sources of poop, you'd mentioned rabbit poop because of its pelletized ability to kind of top dress. What are your other top picks for poop if you had pick of the litter?
Well, obviously poop that is excreted on your property locally, as local as possible.
Okay, so poop that doesn't fall far from the tree. All right.
Yes. And then if I was just being like, oh, my favorite poop from an animal that was local would be alpaca. Now, alpacas are really great because they just poop in the same spot. They just poop in a pile. So it's really nice for farmers who are composting that poop and wanting to use it as a fertilizer to not have to can you imagine going through a freaking cow field and trying to pick up cow patties? Hey, I've looked for mushrooms that way, but it's all right there in a nice little pile. So alpaca would probably be my number one exotic poop if I had to choose.
Oh, I had no idea that they did that. That's crazy that they have their own little bathroom just collecting that free mineral for you.
So that's a really great thing to think about if you are thinking about bringing in animals into your closed loop regenerative farm. Think about their life cycle, their traits, their qualities, what they offer, what they need, and how the relationship you guys are going to have together, how that's going to work out, how they're going to add back into your garden. And then they eat their herbivores. So I had the goats, I would constantly be feeding my goats and chickens weed leaves. So then it was they're getting, it's all the full, there we go when we're talking about that closed loop right there.
That's absolutely killer. Now, if you have to order something, there is a product, Alexandria, you would like this product quite a bit. Shout out to Sustain. Have you ever heard of the company Sustain?
Yes, I have.
Oh, sweet. There you go. Yeah, they make the composted turkey litter. And I talked to those guys. That is a family-owned turkey farm. And they charged their one son, the guy who I talked with, basically figure out something to do with this poop. You're the smart brother. Figure out something to do with all this freaking poop that we have. And he basically composted it into those dry little pellets. And it's pretty damn cheap for a big ass bag. And it's a 464. It's composted turkey litter.
Yeah, it's amazing. I actually used that on all of my greenhouse runs last year and the year before. Yeah. So the local soil yard, which that's my advice to you, is if you don't want to pick up poop, compost it, do all of this, get in touch with your local soil yard. If there's a heady composting company around, which is what I like to do, develop a relationship with them and find out where they're sourcing and what they're putting into their compost and their soil blends. And so in Grass Valley, Rare Earth, they were using Sustain in their soil blends. So I had it already mixed in, ready to go, rock and roll. And obviously that was a weed growing community. So they were building a lot of their soil blends for weed growers, but weed is not too different from the requirements of other plants. You have a few things here and there, but we're all feeding them and trying to do our own little recipes anyway. So it's a good baseline to just get in touch with a local company who will handle all the poop for you.
I like that advice a lot. And not all poops are created equal. Like I said, the worm castings, they're easy to handle. They're not very poopy. Same with the Sustain. It's just kind of like pebbles. You know what I mean? As opposed to some of the manures. our straight poop, but don't shy away from the poop. Don't shy away from the nutritious, delicious poop. Oh boy. Okay, so backing it up a little bit, the veganic growers. We will be right back with our guests shortly, but before that, let me tell you about Pulse, everybody. PulseGrow.com, the industry leaders in grow room monitoring. PulseGrow.com, code GROWCAST for 10% off. Save you some bucks. Pulse is the best way to monitor your grow room. They're awesome supporters of this show. They've got the Pulse One and the Pulse Pro. Now, let me tell you about the Pulse Pro. This thing is amazing. It is the ultimate grow room monitor, the last thing you'll ever need, and it tells you everything about your grow room. Not just temperature and relative humidity and whether or not light is on, but also crazy stuff like vapor pressure deficit, dew point. It has a spectrometer to tell you the spectrum of the light that it's receiving. It has a PPFD and PAR reader. It's got a CO2 reader. This thing is insane. It can handle temperatures up to 130 degrees. It'll give you a reading. It's splash resistant. It's got CO2 measurement, accurate CO2 measurement. It's got a 12-hour battery life and a power adapter. Works up to 10,000 feet in ideal conditions without structures or interference. And best thing about this, 30 days you have to return this thing if you're not satisfied completely, get your money back. Plus, it comes with a 1-year warranty for defects. You can't go wrong. PulseGrow.com, code GROWCAST for 10% off. Grab yourself a Pulse One if you just need to monitor and get alerts on your phone. Make sure you don't lose your crop that you put so much time in. Or go for the big boy, the Pulse Pro, and get all of the readings to completely understand and optimize your grow through data-driven strategies, everyone. PulseGrow.com, code GROWCAST. Thank you to Pulse. All right, everyone, let's get back to the interview. So, backing it up a little bit, the veganic growers, one of the arguments that they have is that, well, take a look at livestock. And I know you just got off a riff of talk to these people and go there, but this is their argument. You take a look at livestock and you take a look at all the things that we do to them, right? We pump them full of hormones. We give them a bunch of dewormers. All that stuff ends up in the poop. That's one of their arguments against this stuff. Aside from going to these farms and seeing in person, do we just rely on the aging and compost process to kind of get rid of those types of contaminants?
Yeah, definitely. That's all I've done. And there's risks, of like a good way to determine is if your worms live in it. That's like your test. If you have worms thriving, living in the manure, then you're good to go.
All right.
That's like simple. There you go. If the dewormer is still active, then they're going to die off, right? So then you know that you don't want to add that into your garden.
Good point. Take a little scope, look for some nematodes, see if it's affecting the nematode population.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Or just throw some red wigglers in and see how long they last. That's a great way to compost any poop is just throw the manure into your worm bin or throw worms into your poop pile. And there you go. They'll take care of it for you. Let it sit. You don't even have to do shit. Literally.
There was a lady who came to one of our classes who was a horse ranch owner, right? Remember, she was talking about how she was kind of defending a lot of the ranchers too, saying they're aware of this and they age their poop. And it apparently does get rid of the things like the dewormers. That was pretty cool, right? That was out in New York.
Yeah, she actually even went a step further and wouldn't even give the poop to people. Like for 2 weeks after worming her horses, she would put that poop separately and age it on a different part of her property and just put it back into her property and not even give it to people. And because not everyone is aware of this and it could, mess up their worm population and wreak havoc in their little garden ecosystem. So that is a super aware farmer right there. And that's where the human connection and just having a conversation goes. And so if you can get any of your inputs from a person that you can talk to, that would be obviously number one choice, right? Rather than just ordering it online from some no-name company or unknown person.
Yeah. And it was cool to see that in person, like the real responsible farming and the consciousness. That's exactly right. That's what it was. It was separated. Very, very cool. Super cool. So I'm just now kind of like getting a peek into this world. I know you're much more experienced and deeper into it, but it's just super, super fascinating. So any bad poops? Any poops to avoid? Like they say, avoid this certain type of wood chip because it'll kill your plant's roots. Like, are there any poops that we don't want to use?
I am not a huge fan of cow manure because of how our industrialized agriculture system treats cows. And it's kind of, I'm like torn because I know that maybe if I use cow manure that is bagged, that I'm possibly reducing the contamination or pollution of these poop lagoons that, maybe they, you know what I'm saying? In the confined animal feeding lots, they just have like all of this poop waste. And it's
Right.
just like,
Maybe you could be
seems
helping by taking some off their hands.
maybe, but then at the same time, it's like kind of like that vegan, like, wow, what are they doing to those animals? They have like ulcers and holes in their stomachs, and they're fed GMOs and pesticides and all of this nasty stuff. 95% of our corn is fed to freaking cows, and it's genetically modified and blasted with glyphosate and all of these pesticides. So it's like, I personally don't use cow manure or really eat beef or even support the industry at all because of my moral views. So if I had to encourage anyone, I would just say, like, let's stop supporting the CAFO cattle industry and support locally grown beef and sustainably,
Right.
Regeneratively, holistically managed cattle.
So it's more likely to be contaminated because it's so factory farmed. But from a poop perspective, you'd say.
And E. coli. E. coli is like in cow poop. Like that's the one that causes all of the E. coli outbreaks is from cow poop. So I just stay away from cow poop.
Oh, well, there you go. Really quick before we wrap this up, I know that this is something we've said on the show before, but unlike cow poop, also depends on what form that poop comes in, right? Like you'd mentioned rabbit poop and this ability to utilize it right away. Is it true that that's true of most or all pelletized poop? Not like the steaming cow pie pile, but like deer pelletized poop or rabbit pelletized poop?
People have said that, but I don't have firsthand experience seeing it.
Mm.
I personally compost all of my goat's manure before using it, and that's highly pelletized. And if you look around online, there is conflicting information on whether or not. So I would just stick to aging it a little bit. Like UC Davis tells us all manure should be aged at least 180 days before using. I have seen rabbit manure used instantly firsthand from my friends who have a rabbit farm. And so I know that you can add this directly and there will be no adverse effect. So I'm of the principle, experiment, check it out, see what happens. If you have pelletized poop, think about like a pelletized poop is going to be just, look at it, it's made up of little pieces of grass. It's like right there, a little
nature's little
slow release fertilizer.
Exactly. This is exactly right. That is exactly what it resembles. Sounds like a need for a side-by-side to me. Maybe a Queen of the Sun membership exclusive side-by-side run, poop loop extravaganza.
Yeah. I mean, I'm about it. I'm the great poop detector. Anytime I'm out hiking and I see scat, I'm like, oh, what kind of poop is this? I wonder if this is coyote, bobcat. Oh, there's seeds. It's bear, fox. Look, sometimes I break it apart. I'll put my hand right up to a pile of bear shit and feel to see if it's hot still. Cause I'm like, where's the bear? Let's go find it.
Oh my God.
But I'm a little weird like that.
Oh, where's the bear? Checking the temperature. You need to keep the meat thermometer on hand. You really should have like a whole great poop detective kit. That's something we got to work on. Well, listen, any other poop thoughts before I kind of transition it here? We just mentioned membership. You're doing some cool projects that I kind of want to talk about. But any final thoughts on poop, or can we talk about your membership challenge?
No, just use poop. That's the first fertilizer. That's what we originally used to feed our crops. And now we've gotten so disconnected from the way that nature works that we go and buy our fertilizer or go buy a box of poop instead of finding poop that's here in our neighborhood. And it's like, you're reducing your carbon footprint by sourcing locally. You are contributing to reducing pollution, waste, methane. I mean, do your part and find the poop. The great poop loop. It's in your hands. That's my final thoughts.
I fucking love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. So I'm sure next time you'll be doing the poop side-by-side challenge. But right now, you guys are tissue culture cloning over there in the Queen of the Sun membership. So I wanted to kind of ping you on this and ask you, what have you learned about this process? I guess setting it up for maybe, first time listeners or people who aren't familiar, this idea of tissue culture cloning, it's a different way to clone in a kind of enclosed setting with like an agar solution, like something that you'd see in a petri dish, something in a lab. And it's something that you can do with just any piece of tissue, any piece of the living plant tissue. What have you learned, Alex? And what is the plan with this challenge?
Okay, so basically, I really got interested in it when I first learned of it because I was buying clones in 2017 and from a dispensary, a Harborside down in Oakland, and they would have lablets. And I was like, what the fuck is a lablet? And I started looking, they were a little bit more expensive. They were like $5 more than a regular clone. And so I started researching it and I was like, oh, this is cool. You are literally growing a plant from a piece of a plant, like you said, with a solution of basically vitamins, hormones, a concoction of things in a sterile environment. And you are able to replicate and clone from the tiniest piece of material a new plant that is basically clean of any viruses, pathogens. And it really got my gears going when we got a full greenhouse of clones that was infected with a virus.
That's right.
And so we're talking about, we've talked about this before, the hop latent, mosaic, all of these viruses that are going around because people aren't cleaning their tools and passing on these viruses through clones. So a great way to get your mom stock cleaned up is through tissue culture cloning. And so I was like, I looked online and there really wasn't, you could buy DIY kits, but there weren't recipes posted online. And in 2018, when I got my training through UC Davis for Master Gardener, they gave me a recipe. And so I was like, oh, wow, fuck yeah. I love, cooking, baking, making recipes. This is just like that. So I went through the process. The first time was a complete disaster. I burned the shit out of my mixture because you have to sterilize everything. Just like with mushrooms, you need to sterilize the medium that you're going to be growing in. You don't want any other bacteria or molds or anything in that medium. You want the plant to just be able to feed off of those nutrients in that enclosed environment and not have contamination. And so you do that by cooking it in the oven or a pressure cooker. So my first mistake was doing it in the oven, in an oven that without an oven thermometer, because let me tell you what, your ovens are not what they say they are. If you put an oven thermometer in your oven, it is going to be widely off.
Yeah, that's right. They don't tell you that about ovens. All you got to do is move to a place and then cook something the same way. And you're like, holy fuck, this oven doesn't work. They're like, holy shit, I just burnt the fuck out of my food. They have not mastered the oven. That is a really good point. So you encountered that when you were trying to sterilize everything from a virus perspective.
Yep. So literally some of the ingredients, I have the recipe posted on my Patreon and my members right now. I have a challenge going. It is open until February 1st, 2023, because that's my birthday. So I thought, oh, what a great, day to celebrate.
What a great day. It's great.
It takes 4 to 6 weeks for your tissue culture clone to root. And so it's a long challenge here. And really, I'm going to choose the winner. I don't know how I'm going to choose exactly. Obviously, it needs to be that it rooted. You have to use my recipe that I posted on Patreon. And whoever wins, I'm giving them a free year of membership.
Nice.
So you have until February 1st to just enter. And then I will keep it going until everyone is finished with their experiment. And then I'll announce the winner after that. But a few of the ingredients are just like you use sugar, you use all-purpose soluble fertilizer.
Oh, really?
And this is where the one time I do use like a synthetic because I know that it's not contaminated. It doesn't have live bacteria, that kind of thing in it. So I'll put a little bit of that, like high ammonium nitrate you want in there.
And sugar, you said?
Yep, sugar.
Wow.
Inositol. I'm probably butchering that. You know me in pronunciation. I am not the best at that. But you could buy that at a health food store. It's like a little pill that you take, a vitamin.
Sure.
Thiamine, which I think is like vitamin B, one of the B vitamins, but that's another vitamin tablet. You like buy all these vitamins, grind them up, use coconut milk from a fresh coconut.
No
because
shit.
it's high in the cytokinins, which
Really?
are, yep.
I did not know this.
And then a little bit of commercial powdered rooting compound that has at least 0.1% active IBA. But I use, and they say the recipe that UC Davis gave was like 60 milligrams of that. But you know me and the IBA, I like that 99% shit. It'll last you a lifetime. Buy one bag, you're good to go. And you just sprinkle a tiny bit in there. So you make all of this concoction, right? And you need to sterilize it in cotton balls in a little jar, like a small, I don't know what the small size of the canning jars are, but whatever that size is, or a baby food jar, any small jar that can withstand high heat. And you're going to put the cotton balls in there, pour your medium into each culture bottle. And you want it so that the cotton ball is able to be right outside, like a little bit above the medium, so that your sample, your tissue, can be supported and be just above the solution, just like part of it's in there, but part of it gets to be above. And you just let it screw it on tight after you've sterilized it. You don't sterilize it with the tissue in there. I'm sorry. Don't do that. That would be terrible. That would be like your biggest mistake. You're like, what the fuck?
So you sterilize
You're
it
sterilizing
beforehand.
the medium.
Right.
Yes. Sterilize the medium, the glass, all of that shit beforehand. Then you put your sample in there, tighten the jar, and let it sit in a nice indirect sunlight, warm environment. And you want, if you've grown mushrooms, like you want to take the same precautions that you would be doing with mushrooms, like bleach and plastic gloves and tweezers and sterilized water. And I just bleach the shit out of everything and just make sure that you have no contamination when you're going to be doing this.
Now, this is with a piece of the plant meristem?
The apical meristem, yes. So that is the very tip.
Do you take a whole top cutting? What do you do for the actual cut?
Just a tiny, like a half inch to 1 inch of plant tip.
Wow.
The tiniest little piece. And you're wanting to get that top apical meristem because that is where you're going to have the most concentration of auxins. And those are, your plant growth hormones that are responsible for cell elongation. And so growth comes from there. And that's where you're going to have the most of it, that concentrated hormone. So get at it, try it, super cool. And then, with everyone sending clones in the mail these days, it might be nice for you to tissue culture clone that clone that was given to you before you put it into your living soil bed, because viruses can be held in the fungal network within your living soil bed. So you can have a virus within your living soil bed dormant in there and pass it on to subsequent crops. So just be careful when you're getting these clones that are shipped all across the country that you have no idea if they are viroid or virus tested. And so this is an amazing way to clean up everything. And that is where I would say buy from breeders who talk about this. Buy from breeders or clone sources who are aware and making an effort. I know Purple Caper, he refreshes all of his breeding stock once a year through tissue culture cloning.
That's so cool. That is so freaking cool. Now, you talk about vectors, and that's a good point. We should go over this, the different areas where these viruses can hop from plant to plant. And these viruses and viroids, which are similar, they're smaller and they tend to affect plants, the viroids, but plants get viruses as well. It's like there's innumerable viruses and viroids, and they make up the plant's microbiome, but we're certainly part of the plant's microbiome. We're certainly trying to avoid a couple of them, though. The hopulatin viroid, tobacco mosaic viroid, these types of things, because they really fuck up your plant's potency. They cause dudding, where they're just dud buds. Now, you mentioned, everybody knows, when you talk about viroids, you talk about cleaning your tools, right? You take a cutting or you prune one plant that has the viroid or virus, and then you don't wash those scissors, and you take the cutting of another plant. I'm hearing people talk about how even alcohol isn't good enough, and you have to use bleach and all these different things to keep your tools clean. So that's one thing to consider. You also mentioned how having them in the same container can transfer that viroid. And that's because of I didn't know that that was because of the fungal network between them. But I did understand that it can kind of travel through the root systems if they share a container. Is it also true that some viruses or viroids can be passed down through progeny, through seed making? Is that the case?
Yes, up to 8% they're finding. 8% of seeds from an infected plant can carry and pass on that virus or viroid. So
Wow.
you're not even safe there with knowing you could possibly getting an infected seed.
And my understanding as well is that's because they kind of attach and become part of the DNA or RNA of the plant.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why tissue culture cloning works is because the newest growth area that people clone from is less infected. The virus is less present there. So I've even heard that sometimes it takes a few runs to get that count down. I'll have to speak to some testing people about that to kind of confirm that, but it makes sense when it was explained to me that way. And that would make sense as to why the tissue culture cloning works.
I spoke with a testing lab about this, and they said that not all parts of the plant will even have the virus in it. And so it makes it really hard to test for some of these viruses, because if you aren't pulling a piece of that plant for testing that is infected, then that you could test negative and your plant still could be positively have that virus. And so it's always better to go lower down in the plant. Older tissue is going to be more indicative, whereas the newer tissue, it might not have reached it yet, because like you said, it becomes part of the DNA, but it's systemic and it's traveling through the plant. It's not like, oh, all of a sudden now every single piece of my DNA has a virus. It's like, no, think about a virus in your body. It is moving through and the plant or the organism is trying to fight it, trying to get it out. And there's things that you can actually do, just like us humans, we take like vitamin C and, try and boost our immune system. A plant has an immune system too, and you can boost it. And I've seen crops pulled off success. I've pulled off crops successfully with viruses, and I've seen other people who haven't. And I think that the key there is boosting your plant's immune system, and doing that. Obviously, living soil is going to have the best defense, I should say, for that immune system, because you've got a plethora, an army of bacteria that's going to fight the virus. Bacteria kill viruses. And once they kill a virus, they have that piece of that virus in them, and they can recognize it. So first of all, having bacteria and having that's going to increase your immune system and help the plant fight off the virus. And then jasmonic acid, ethylene, and a few other plant hormones you can do like a tea, and you can do these immunities to boost your plant's immune system to resist and fight off that virus. And telltale, people send me pictures all the time. Oh, is this a virus? Is this a virus? And I'm like, well, I can't tell you just from looking at it, but typically it's that mosaic patterning that is present, because what's happening is the chloroplasts are trying to battle with the virus. And so you're having less chlorophyll in those spots. And that's where you get that whole mosaic patterning going on.
So when you see like variegation, right, where the leaf is discolored, but it's not discolored in a way that looks like a nutrient deficiency where it's yellowing from the outside in, or, the intraveinal chlorosis where it's in between the veins, it's getting lighter. It'll be like split halfway down the leaf. It'll be like you're looking at the back of your hand, and your thumb and your index finger are, bright yellow. And then the right half of your hand is just still normal green. That's like a variegation, right? And my understanding is that can be a sign of a lot of different viruses. So not necessarily a bad thing, but if you see that and your plant is stunted and not growing right, if you see that and your plant is dudding, it's not smelling right, the trichomes are coming out, you can pretty safely assume that plant has a virus, right? I mean, if you knock out the other factors, let's say, if you eliminate the other possibilities.
Yep. And I would say even looking at it when the yellowing, that color, and looking to see the pattern of it, it looks kind of pixelated.
Yeah, like there's the checkerboard version. Yeah.
Yep. And that's when you know that it's like a really terrible virus, usually when it's that checkerboard. But like I said, you can kind of boost your plant's immune system and get through it. And then if it's a plant that you really want to hold on to, you can go ahead and you can tissue culture. If that's the strain that you're just like, don't want to see out of your lineup, then just go ahead and hop on my Patreon, do the tissue culture challenge, win a year of membership, and clean up your genetics right there.
So do you mentioned the Immuno tea. Do you have that recipe in your Patreon? You have to put that up there.
Oh yeah, it's on there.
Oh, it is? There you go. Boom.
Yep.
I like that.
Already there.
That almost sounds like a good product to put on the market for people to purchase. Like an Immuno tea, some of those ingredients you listed didn't seem like they were household ingredients. I'm surprised I haven't seen that. Someone needs to do a side-by-side control and sell it.
Yeah. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to make an Immuno tea to sell. I think that would be amazing. I'm trying to figure out a source of jasmonic acid that I would be like okay with. I've been thinking about this for years. I have so many ideas all the time. I need a assistant to help me get all the things done. That's like, anybody listening want to volunteer to help me? I'll give you a percentage.
Pay you in rosin?
Yeah. I'll pay you in oil. I got lots.
Oh, shit. Okay, holy crap. This podcast flew by. Thank you for spending this hour with us, Alex. This was dope.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. And you know what? I just want to let you know that you've become like one of my best friends. So this is fun to do the podcast now that we're like real homies.
I couldn't agree more. I appreciate you so much. And speaking of which, you listeners, if you want to hear more of me and Alex sitting around and talking shit, we're going to do a live stream November 20th because, Alex, it has been a pleasure doing this as friends. I'm not just educating people, but experiencing all of this travel together, like going to these different cities with you, meeting all these new people. It's been an honor, truly, to call you a friend. But we've got all these stories that we need to tell that won't fit here on Growcast, right? So I'm excited to do this stream with you, and we can tell people about all of our crazy adventures where we've become buddy.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I mean, literally when you and I are together, we can't shut up. And when we were on the plane flying somewhere, we had a gentleman actually leave because we won't stop talking. He needed to move. So I know that there's people who do want to hear us talk. So I'm excited.
I love it.
To go ahead and do this with you November 20th. Hell yeah.
Oh, you rock. You rock, Alex. Yeah, November 20th, 4:20 Central Time. That's 2:20 Pacific. Get after it, everybody. It's on YouTube. We're going to do it live, so come and hang out with us. That's going to be really, really cool. And again, thank you, Alex. I appreciate you. You're an awesome educator, and you're a great friend. And I look forward to hanging out in Hawaii and doing this class in Honolulu.
Hell yeah. December 10th. Buy your tickets now.
That's right. Let's give them a code here. It's Monday. Let's say code CAST for 10% off your purchase if you go ahead and go to growcastpodcast.com/classes. Come and see us at Ohana. I would love to see you out there. Thank you all, listeners. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this poop episode. Thank you, Alex, for this wonderful poop episode. I'll see you on the next podcast, certainly.
Hell yeah.
Patreon.com/Queen of the Sungrown is where you can find her. At Queen of the Sungrown on Instagram. And that's all, everybody. This is Alexandria Irons and Jordan Rivers signing off, saying be safe out there, everybody. We'll see you next time. And grow smarter.
Peace out, bitches!
That's our show. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to Alexandria. Before we wrap it up, the Order of Cultivation. That's right. Our membership, our secret society of growers. Come and check it out before we close our doors. Growcastpodcast.com/membership is where you can find it. Hundreds of hours of bonus content is what you'll find inside, as well as members-only discounts on grow gear, genetics, our genetics, and so much more. We're doing different challenges where there's prizes. We have an amazing prize vault where if you win in the Order of Cultivation, you get to select from a variety of products. We have, IPM solutions and containers, Rain Science grow bags up there, limited edition merch, and of course, lots of seeds to win in the Order of Cultivation. Not to mention all the community events, everybody every day in the voice chat, hanging out with each other, supporting each other in our gardens. We are closing our doors at the end of January, so come on in, check it out. You can jump in anytime. Patreon is open any time of the month. growcastpodcast.com/membership. Go and check it out, everybody. Thank you so much to all the members who support this show. If you love this show, you will love the Order of Cultivation, the Growcast membership. Thank you, dear listeners, for staying tuned. We've got some great episodes coming at you, so don't go anywhere. Make sure to tell a friend about Growcast. It means a lot to me. I hope we helped you out in your garden, and I hope to hear from you again. All right, see you next time, everybody. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.
Because that's my birthday. So I thought, oh, what a great, day